I recognize that my comments on the platform yesterday were inappropriate, and I regret offending anyone with the comments I made. So I do withdraw them and apologize.
There, let me go and talk to. Andrew was this man. What the fuck wrong with you? Where you from? Fuck wrong. Andrew was this man now. Give me that. Who me left? I'm not here. I'm not here. No. Andrew was this man here. You want to get one? Are you Andrew was this man here? Andrew was this man here. Yes, 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 yes.
I'm going to say yes. It's a retarded and foolish question that you ask PNP. None of them are going to come up and say yes. You expect them to say no? No. It's a retarded question, that man. Foolishness. I mean, if I question, then an argument, I'm going to come down. Because it's foolishness.
But I could say your response for saying no, you
put up all PNP, you expect that the PNP them are going to say anything else? No, if one PNP come up and say, me eat my shirt. If one PNP come up and say, Warmington first.
Let me tell you why me say that. Me I look for your labor right with your open run gun. So what me I try to do, I give people to just give their contribution. I don't have to answer the question, share your opinion, what you think about Warmington. Really is that a target to you. I just want them to give them opinion.
But I am saying to you, these people not going to come up, these PNP people, what do you expect from them? You expect them to come up and say, every labor right now going to tell yourself to resign.
Now what
I understand that. It's a fool question that. Retarded and foolishness. You better slap the question.
Hold on. Labor right when I say no Warmington should resign.
Is there any labor right?
Right. No labor right not going to say
exactly. So
that's why we need for those.
I know me, I know should I really deal with this. Is the office of the ombudsman. So people of Jamaica, in fairness to the one labor right, Andrew Holness fail to recognize the importance of the office of the ombudsman. Right now, I go up on the website. Along the document me see, there's nobody name. We don't know who to call. So he left to the citizens' judgment. So we're not targeting the question and removal.
No, but hold on, before you say that, the office of the ombudsman is the ECJ.
Is the ECJ. Good.
I can't come to
the 9 commissioners are the ombudsman. The 9 commissioners, including 2 PNP and 2 jail.
You, Richards, thank you. How we're going to do it is, Mr. Holness, you need to resign because you left all citizens to just left a call upon 9 people we don't know about. So, everybody we are going to give a contribution. What happened yesterday is a national disgrace, locally and internationally. A MP tell the citizens of Jamaica about them whatever. So, it's an opinion generally. Opinions are not necessarily the reflection of my view or the program view. Freedom of expression. If you're a labor writer, you want to voice your concern on what Warmington do, it's your constitutional right to express that.
Yes, face the disciplinary committee at the Jamaica Labour Party. In addition to that, I can bet him say, you not going to see Warmington on the next platform.
Yeah, man, I'm better next year to give this, but next question.
Yeah, and the bet them, I go hold you to the bet there.
Yeah, man, I'm sure, man. Yeah,
well, the election.
Well, your question I'm going to ask you. Because you say something very hypocritical. You tell me a while ago now, say, the party, I got charge Warmington or discipline him. But the police left Warmington make him want scratch free when he broke killer.
No, but sir, that's not hypocritical in that. You talk about the state. You talk about the state. You talk about the state to the party.
No, but you say party, I got discipline him.
But listen up. You talk about the state to a party. The state, a mere resources that. Right? The party are for them resources that. So me now ask the police to spend taxpayers with resources. If go hunt down Warmington, if go charge him. If them never charge him per spot. I'm not doing that.
Alright, me have asked you a question. Hold on. that discussion on there. Hold on. The Jamaica Labour Party, is it a private or public organization?
Well, it is a lot of time people ask a question there. It is both a private and a public.
Through donation.
Yeah, true donation and various ways.
If me and you donate to
Donation and fundraising, various ways.
So that means me and you normal man or people donate money to them. So if me and you put money in the Jamaica Labour Party, and we see say Warmington do something on stage, me and you
no, well, not me and you because you not going to put it at every Jamaican money in the Labour Party.
Alright, you
put money
well, I'm just saying, I say no. So if you put money in that, you put money in the Jamaica Labour Party, and based on Warmington discipline him, you put him back on no more stage. Why is it that me and you will put money in a party where if we do the same thing on the stage, the police charge we?
Ask the police that. That are the police you have to ask that. You can't ask me that.
All right.
Because it have been said, say all man is created equal, but it's not every man is equal.
Right. Okay.
Just remember that.
Vice, hear the question. Vice, hear the question I'm going to ask now to make it balance out and fair. I'm going to ask this question. Make any member of the People's National Party do the same thing Warmington do? Would you like them? Would you support them in the party or them have to resign? But you the PNP the answer now. We have to hear PNP them agree with me.
Call and you PNP them going put on a brave face and say no. The PNP, I know the.
You think the person should resign? Yes or no?
If what? If the PNP didn't have similar position, what I say? If the PNP didn't have similar position, I remember the PNP didn't have.
Yeah, man.
No. Once them apologize. No. Once them apologize, me not have time for petty foolishness. Foolishness.
Choose a side.
Neutral, I'm living in New York.
Hold on now before you even go no further. Who you vote for in the last election?
Last election, never done Jamaica.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So, who you vote for your previous election before that?
PNP.
Okay, so you're more aligned to the PNP with your vote now than before? Yes or no?
And, yeah, with the corruption that are going to Jamaica, yes. Andrew Wellness is a real leader. You don't feel if you will step out and vote for one name, Warmington, and say Warmington. If at that meeting I say Warmington, what you have done, you are wrong. You don't feel in a score political fight.
You ask me a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you know him not do it? Or you know him not do it?
No, to the public.
But things don't, wait, my brother. Things don't work as how you want it for work in a
I don't mean want it to work, sir.
No, it don't work, so. It don't work, so. You chance, wait now.
All right, talk on it.
Hold on, the boss. Hold on, the experience come with that. Experience, man.
Yeah.
We tell you that. Say it don't work the way then. No party leader now will come out, come scold nobody publicly, so. Them not going to do it. No.
All right, let me say something. All right, let me say something. Let me say one more thing. So, Mark Golding's call Dennis Meadows. In the public.
Mark Dennis said what?
Move him, shift him.
Dennis Meadows was a Dennis Meadows was a labourite and just newly becomes a PNP. All of it was just political.
No, Mark Golding don't use that for him.
Simple well that.
No, Mark Golding don't use that on him.
To a bounty. You don't never seen do that to a Nathan.
All right.
You don't never seen do it.
Dennis Meadows.
No.
All right, me done, sir. All right.
No.
Why you say it don't make no sense. Everybody a PNP and Labour right, we're not Jamaicans. I first man I do this thing. It is not the first. Me I watch news and me I watch other places. People are talk to him and him disrespect people. On live TV and he knows the people have video him and something. The man is a minister, brother. Stop operating up and going like, brother, look, you stop pick up for your dirty government then when I deal with nothing good, brother. You see me? Stop pick up for wrongdoings, brother.
It's clear to me, so you're a PNP.
It is, I am a Jamaican still. You see me? I don't put up with wrongdoing me I talk about. And I am speaking for other millions and thousands of people out there, same way. we are say the same thing. And the first him do this now, second or third time, and him come back and apologize again. So we're gonna always accept your apology, whether me a PNP or JLP.
That is why
me a Jamaican see and we am tired of this.
If 20 Labour right want come, make them come. If 20 PNP want come, make them come.
No, tell us this question do not relevant because the Labour right about it don't go just cause